Alright. Today it is What If 96 starring The Flash, one of my favourite Marvel characters. And it says on the cover for some reason, The Quick and the Dead, which is a Sam Raimi film starring Gene Hackman as bad guy. It was a big fat flop of a film. It was a Western released in 1995. Of course it was a flop. But it isn't bad. Extra review for you there. The Quick and the Dead. It is not worth watching. Whereas this is probably best not read. This was during What If's identity crisis years, where they ditched the framing sequence with the big baby in a nappy, and they didn't even make it very clear half the time what the what if question being pondered is. I think Marvel thought this was going upmarket, and they were offering more prestige stories than the usual what ifs. They even expanded the page count of the comic from the standard meager 23 pages to a full 26 pages. The idea here is, what if Mr. Magnets raised his children? I was going to say that is a decent thing to ask, but then I realised it is not an interesting question. It is something you show for one panel in a story. You show a possible reality or a fantasy sequence where Mr. Magnets raised the twins, and that's that. The thing is, it's not a story. There isn't a story there. It is just a man raising his kids. By the way, actually unreadable text there. You cannot read that. You can work out what name he is saying, but you cannot read that text at all. I think one of the biggest problems with this is that the Flash was a really ugly baby. Really, really ugly. That's not the actual problem I was going to say. What this story does is take it in its own direction. And it is a direction I didn't entirely agree with. And some of you may be shocked to discover that I think Mr. Magnet's being depicted as evil in this story doesn't work. I will come back to Mr. Magnets, but this story actually stars the Flash, one of my favourite Marvel characters. The art is ridiculously inconsistent, mostly bad. The Flash, he wants to leave home. Mr. Magnets has secluded his family in a castle on top of a mountain. And now the Flash is a young teenager who wants to see the outside world. Father, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see. Mr. Magnets is walking around shirtless, which I really take personal issue with. He looks like a hippie twat, and I can't abide by my favourite villain looking like that. So the conceit is that back in the past, after the war, that time when the villagers burnt his house down, when they found out he was a mutie. In this reality, his first daughter didn't die in the fire, so that has the knock-on effect of him not slaughtering the townsman who started the fire and his wife running away from him in fear. There's shit in that scene that is not clear. It's implied that he kills them anyway, which doesn't work at all because his wife should still run in fear from him, but this time with their daughter. But yeah, I think without that happening, without him losing his daughter, without him being abandoned by his wife, he would not turn out at least as evil as his mainstream counterpart. I do think Mr. Magnet is someone who is evil by nature. He is a mean bully. That has always been my opinion on the character. That was the character forged by the concentration camps. A man capable of utter hatred for another race or another species. It is the classic paradox where he became what he hated. He was persecuted by the Nazis, and then he became the persecutor of others. However, my take is that his wife and daughter would temper him. He wasn't evil yet. He didn't hate humans yet. His family being there make it so that his suffering largely ended with the Holocaust. He doesn't have as strong a reason to hate a species because they never took his daughter from him. They started a fire, but the way Mr. Magnet reacts to that is to hide from humans. And that is neither what Mr. Magnet would do, or what I think Mr. Magnet, still with a wife and daughter, would do. I don't know. I will admit this is still more interesting than anything Christopher Clairvoyant did with Mr. Magnet. I think there is some interesting ideas in here, or some interesting characters at least. Some stuff is done with the Mr. Magnet's family that I didn't see coming, and I am not scoffing at any comic where the Flash is written as having some layers as a character, but I just didn't really see the actual characters in these iterations. Yes, they have had very different lives and very different upbringings, but Mr. Magnet, he feels like a scared king. He is hiding away from humans and plotting their downfall. And then the Flash, well, the Flash is much younger, so you have that excuse. And he is maybe the closest to his real version, but I didn't buy him abandoning his sister to go and explore the whole world on his own. Father, I've got the whole world to see. He meets a girl who looks like his sister anyway, because of course he does. He falls in love. And yeah, I think the most compelling stuff done is with Mr. Magnet and his original daughter, his human daughter, his non-mutant daughter, the one who originally died in the fire, and now how she is seen as his lesser child because she is not a mutie, and she is the crux of what the real story here should be. And all this stuff with the Flash being on his own, this feels like a distraction or padding. I thought of a pretty good comparison for this story. This feels like, it felt like one of Elliot Pride's fairy tales that they would waste an entire issue of Uncanny Excellent Men on. You know, them Christopher Clairvoyant issues where it would be a fairy tale that he is telling Magic Girl or whatever. This felt like one of them rather than an issue of What If. This didn't feel like an alternative Marvel universe. It felt like a fairy tale reality. The only characters we have are the 5 members of the family. There's no one else from the Marvel universe in this. No other mutie we recognise. And here is a question the story never acknowledges. Regardless of Mr. Magnet having a totally different life, wouldn't Dr. X still seek out Mr. Magnet if this series of events happened? He would learn of him and track him down because he is a mutie. And he also has 2 kids who are muties. We have a last minute swerve where it becomes a murder mystery that is quickly resolved because the human daughter, the first daughter, she killed Charlotte Witch off panel, and Mr. Magnet broke his son's spine so that he cannot run off to the outside world again. So the Flash shoots Mr. Magnet, and this is the exciting stuff in the issue, and it's quickly over. My mind was all over the place even just reviewing this. I'm not sure what I think of it entirely. If you like The Flash, maybe it's worth a read. It is a curiosity. It has got some interesting bits. It's not very good. It's not well drawn. It's got a shaky premise. I didn't really recommend it, but I didn't hate it or anything. I liked seeing The Flash, and there is summit there, but it's very fleeting. I'll give it a 7 thumbs up, but I will also award it with my infamous Golden Splat Award.